Briefing on November 3, 2024. Overview. According to a report by the New York Times, the 2024 U.S. presidential election is entering its final stage, with a fierce competition between Democratic candidate Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican candidate former President Donald Trump. Poll results from several key swing states indicate that support for both candidates is nearly equal, making the outcome unpredictable. Key information points. 1. In a Pennsylvania supermarket, 30-year-old Walter Mendoza argued with his 52-year-old warehouse manager mother, blaming President Biden for inflation. 2. The latest polls show Harris slightly leading in Nevada, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, while Trump maintains an advantage in Arizona. In Michigan, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, both candidates have equal support. 3. Trump often makes bewildering off-topic remarks during his campaign speeches, which have recently intensified, leading to voter fatigue. 4. Iran's supreme leader has warned that if Israel continues to strike Iran, the country will respond with total retaliation. The Pentagon has stated it will increase resources in the region in the coming months. 5. In a last-minute effort, Harris interacted with comedian Maya Rudolph, who portrayed her on Saturday Night Live, in an attempt to ease the tense election atmosphere. Summary. Overall, the 2024 U.S. presidential election is reaching a boiling point, with both candidates having equal support in key swing states, making the outcome uncertain. Meanwhile, the situation in the Middle East is also becoming increasingly tense, warranting attention. Washington Post subscriber loss news brief. Key information points. 1. On the eve of November 3, 2024, The Washington Post decided not to endorse a presidential candidate, leading to a significant loss of subscribers, with 250,000 cancellations within days, accounting for 10% of total subscriptions. 2. This decision is seen as an attempt by owner Jeff Bezos to protect his business interests, as he also owns the aerospace company Blue Origin and may be concerned about the negative impact of a Trump presidency. 3. Employees and senior journalists at The Washington Post expressed strong dissatisfaction with this decision, arguing that it undermines the newspaper's investigative reporting and obscures the threat Trump poses to democracy. 4. This incident is viewed as a major misstep in the history of The Washington Post, severely damaging the newspaper's credibility and influence. Summary. The Washington Post's unexpected decision not to endorse a presidential candidate before the 2024 election has led to a significant subscriber loss, with 250,000 cancellations in just a few days, representing 10% of total subscriptions. This decision is believed to stem from owner Jeff Bezos's business considerations rather than the newspaper's journalistic principles, provoking strong discontent among employees and senior journalists. This event is considered a significant error in The Washington Post's history, severely undermining its credibility and influence. Briefing, The Wall Street Journal's commentary on Trump and Harris. 1. The Wall Street Journal's editorial argues that Trump was too undisciplined during his first term, with a too short attention span, making it unlikely he could maintain consistent messaging or initiate a coup. 2. The editorial points out that Trump may be surrounded by liars and provocateurs, which could lead to destructive policy directions. His praise for dictators is concerning, raising fears of potential deals with leaders like Russia's Putin or North Korea's Kim Jong-un. 3. In contrast, the editorial describes Harris as a disappointing clone of Biden or Obama, criticizing her progressive agenda and expressing concerns about her sincerity in establishing a bipartisan government. 4. Overall, The Wall Street Journal's editorial is critical of both Trump and Harris, but seems to lean towards viewing a second Trump term as potentially riskier than the rise of the Democrats. Briefing. The Financial Times has launched a new digital subscription service, offering comprehensive newspaper content accessible on any device. The 3-month subscription costs €38, but does not include access to the FT.com website and mobile app. Additionally, the Financial Times has introduced a series of election-related content for the 2024 U.S. presidential election, including 1. The Countdown to the U.S. Election email newsletter, providing readers with the latest updates and analyses of the electoral process. 2. The 2024 U.S. Presidential Election Special Report, aggregating the latest news, analyses, and polling data. 3. The Democracy 2024 feature, delving into the upcoming political year with multiple perspectives, analyses, and opinions. Overall, the Financial Times is providing readers with comprehensive and in-depth news and analysis through its new digital subscription service and extensive election coverage. Briefing. On November 3, 2024, the UK Conservative Party elected a new leader, with black woman Kemi Badenoch becoming the first black leader in the party's history and the fourth female leader. She defeated opponent Robert Jenrick by a margin of 12,418 votes in the internal party election. Badenoch pledged to return to the Conservative Party's core principles and will initiate a series of policy evaluations in the coming weeks to establish a new policy framework. Meanwhile, the Valencia region of Spain has suffered severe flooding, resulting in over 200 deaths. This unprecedented rainfall is believed to be linked to climate change, representing an extreme weather event caused by global warming. Despite an 8% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in the EU in 2023, the Biodiversity Summit and upcoming climate negotiations face significant challenges, with political climate still exhibiting tendencies to deny climate change. In the UK, the new government plans to significantly increase funding for the National Health Service, NHS, but experts believe this is still far from sufficient. The NHS faces severe challenges, including long waiting lists, an aging population, and cost pressures from new drugs and medical technologies. The government needs to develop a more comprehensive reform plan that shifts from treatment to prevention and addresses issues within the social security system, which will be a daunting task. Overall, these articles reflect the multiple challenges currently facing the UK and Europe, including political, economic, and climate change issues. The government needs to take strong measures to address these problems and lay the groundwork for future development. Briefing, celebrating the Day of the Dead, a cultural tradition connecting life and death. Article summary. 1. The Day of the Dead is a traditional festival originating from pre-Hispanic Mexico 3,000 years ago, where it is believed that the dead can connect with the living. 2. People create altars, ofrenda, to commemorate deceased loved ones, placing photos, candles, and food on the altar. This collective mourning expresses people's grief and love. 3. In California, the Day of the Dead has a history of several decades and has become an important cultural tradition. The Los Angeles Times provides a platform for readers to commemorate the deceased through digital and physical altars. 4. In addition to altars, the celebrations of the Day of the Dead include traditional dances, musical performances, and holiday-related foods. These activities allow people to experience joy and hope in the midst of mourning. In summary, the Day of the Dead is a cultural tradition that connects life and death, reflecting people's remembrance of the deceased and appreciation for life. In California, this festival has become a unique cultural symbol, embodying the fusion of diverse cultures. Briefing. 1. Racism accusations. Labour MP Dawn Butler shared an article on social media claiming that Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch represents white supremacy under a black mask. This comment has sparked widespread criticism, with calls for Labour leader Keir Starmer to expel her. 2. Spanish king faces anger from flood survivors. During a visit to the flood-affected areas in Valencia, King Felipe VI of Spain was met with angry protests from local residents, who threw mud and stones at him and his entourage. Police had to deploy mounted units to maintain order. 3. Arsenal faces setback. Tottenham Hotspur at a critical moment. Arsenal lost to Newcastle away, missing the chance to narrow the gap with Manchester City. Meanwhile, Tottenham Hotspur is expected to defeat Aston Villa at home, closing the gap with Arsenal. 4. Pressure cooker usage guide. Pressure cookers can significantly save cooking time and costs, making them suitable for home cooking. When purchasing, factors such as capacity and whether it is electric should be considered to meet personal needs. Overall, these articles cover various fields, including politics, society, sports, and lifestyle, providing rich content worth attention. The editor has highlighted the most valuable information points while maintaining clarity and conciseness, achieving a good balance. Briefing on November 3, 2024. This briefing primarily focuses on the following aspects. 1. Political turmoil in the U.S. Former President Trump is once again attempting to stage a coup to overturn the legitimately elected Biden administration. Trump and his supporters have continuously claimed that the 2020 election was fraudulent and have sought various means to obstruct the peaceful transfer of power. Such actions severely undermine the stability of the U.S. democratic system. 2. Moldova presidential election. Moldova held the second round of presidential elections on November 3. Pro-European incumbent President Sandu faces a challenge from pro-Russian candidate Stoyanoglu. The election process has been marred by serious external interference and corruption issues, raising concerns about Moldova's future direction. 3. Europe faces Russian cyber attacks. Reports indicate that Russia has been creating numerous fake news websites that mimic well-known European media, disseminating pro-Russian and anti-EU misinformation. These twin sites aim to mislead readers and disrupt the information environment in Europe. Relevant authorities are taking action to address this issue. 4. U.S. presidential election in final sprint. Democratic candidate Harris and Republican candidate Trump are making final campaign efforts in key swing states. The two are sharply criticizing each other, claiming that the other would lead to economic recession and social unrest. Voter turnout is at an all-time high, and the election results are highly anticipated. Overall, the current international situation is tumultuous, with political climates in various countries filled with uncertainty. We must remain vigilant to uphold democratic systems and resist external interference and sabotage. Briefing: luxury goods flow under Russian sanctions. Key information points. 1. Despite the EU, US, and UK imposing sanctions restricting luxury goods exports to Russia, high-end vehicles, watches, and jewelry continue to enter Russia through informal channels. 2. This circumvention of sanctions primarily occurs through neighboring countries such as Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan, which have become transit points for Russia to obtain Western luxury goods. 3. Wealthy Russians are still able to acquire these banned items through various means, such as registering vehicles and using intermediaries. This phenomenon of parallel imports is widespread in Russia. 4. Although sanctions have had some impact on the Russian economy, they have not achieved the goal of stopping the war. Increased military spending in Russia has offset losses in other sectors, resulting in limited effectiveness of the sanctions. 5. Experts believe that sanctions need further refinement, particularly to close loopholes that allow key materials to flow in from countries like China, to truly be effective. Overall, despite the sanctions, wealthy Russians continue to access banned Western luxury goods through various channels, indicating the limited effectiveness of the sanctions, which need further improvement. Briefing: how to safely provide information to the Süddeutsche Zeitung investigation team. Süddeutsche Zeitung places a high priority on protecting the security of information sources. To this end, they offer several secure communication methods for readers, including 1. Secure Drop. This is an encrypted communication system based on software from the Freedom of the Press Foundation, allowing anonymous submission of documents and information to Süddeutsche Zeitung. It requires access via the Tor browser to a dedicated URL. 2. Encrypted email. Süddeutsche Zeitung uses PGP encryption and provides reporters public keys. Additionally, encrypted email services like ProtonMail and Tudnote can be used to contact reporters securely. 3. Encrypted instant messaging. Signal is a trusted encrypted messaging app that allows secure communication with reporters. Threema also offers encrypted messaging without revealing phone numbers. 4. Traditional mail. When sending letters or materials, one can avoid writing their real name on the envelope and send it from a post office far from home. 5. In-person delivery. Materials can be directly delivered to the headquarters of Süddeutsche Zeitung to the investigative reporting department. In summary, Süddeutsche Zeitung provides various secure and reliable methods for readers to submit tips and information, ensuring the privacy and safety of information sources. China Daily Briefing. 1. Russia's fifth-generation stealth fighter, Su-57 has arrived in China for the first time and will be showcased at the Zhuhai Air Show. This marks the first foreign stealth fighter to land in China, symbolizing the continuous enhancement of China's military strength. 2. The EU and Japan have signed a security and defense partnership agreement, aiming to expand their influence in the Asia-Pacific region. However, China strongly opposes any interference in its internal affairs, especially regarding Taiwan. China is determined and capable of resolving the Taiwan issue at the appropriate time. 3. Several congressional districts in the Midwest and Northeast of the U.S. will see fierce competition. Republicans are challenging incumbent Democratic Congress members, with clear divisions on major issues such as the economy, immigration, and abortion. 4. The giant panda exhibit at the Beijing Zoo has reopened, creating a richer behavioral environment for the pandas, benefiting their physical and mental health. 5. Asian manufacturing showed stagnation in October, but China's manufacturing index has returned to the expansion zone, indicating stabilization in the Chinese economy. The IMF warns that China faces deflation risks and calls for accelerated economic transformation. In summary, this issue of China Daily focuses on significant developments across various fields, including military, diplomacy, domestic politics, environmental protection, and economic conditions, providing valuable references for readers to comprehensively understand the current situation in China and its surroundings. Briefing: Attacks on ethnic minorities in Bangladesh, Japanese local governments attempt new democratic practices, Typhoon number 21 to bring heavy rain to western and eastern Japan. 1. Attacks on ethnic minorities in Bangladesh. Following the coup in August, the Muslim-majority government of Bangladesh has been overthrown, and the minority Hindu community has faced large-scale attacks and harassment, with over 2,000 incidents reported. The minority groups are demanding the temporary government withdraw defamation charges against their leaders and provide better protection. The UN and human rights organizations have expressed concern. Indian Prime Minister Modi and US presidential candidate Trump have both condemned the violence against minority groups. 2. Japanese local governments attempt new democratic practices. Tsukuba City Mayor Ikura Ryu invited citizens to rate his performance via a mobile app, which will determine his pension. This is an innovative practice allowing the public to directly participate in political decision-making, with the mayor's pension potentially ranging from 22 million to over 20 million yen, depending on the average rating from citizens. This approach aims to fairly reflect residents' evaluations and pave the way for future qualified successors. 3. Typhoon number 21 to bring heavy rain to Japan. Heavy rain is expected in western Japan from November 1st to 2nd and in eastern Japan from November 2nd to 3rd, potentially leading to landslides, flooding in low-lying areas, and river overflow. Meteorological authorities urge the public to remain vigilant and remind that Typhoon number 21 will transition to a temperate low-pressure system on the evening of November 1st, moving northeast along the front. Overall, these articles reflect the social challenges currently facing Japan and Bangladesh. The minority groups in Bangladesh are suffering from violence, Japanese local governments are attempting new democratic practices, and typhoon weather poses potential disasters in Japan. These issues warrant attention and resolution. Briefing: Progress in privacy rights protection in Australia. 1. A recent court ruling in Victoria has recognised the infringement of privacy rights under Australian common law, marking an important milestone. 2. The case involved a woman successfully claiming that her father disclosed private conversations with her during a media interview, resulting in a court ruling awarding her tens of thousands of Australian dollars in damages. 3. The judge stated that while such cases have historically been classified as breaches of confidentiality, they should be regarded as independent privacy rights infringements to better protect individual dignity. 4. This ruling was issued shortly after the federal government proposed privacy law reform, reflecting the growing importance of privacy rights protection in the digital age. 5. Experts believe that while this ruling is only a lower court decision, it demonstrates how privacy issues arising from technological and social changes are driving the gradual development of common law, laying the groundwork for future statutory privacy rights. Overall, this ruling signifies significant progress in Australia's protection of individual privacy rights and lays the foundation for upcoming legal reforms. Briefing on the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Overview. The 2024 U.S. presidential election is entering a heated phase, with Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican candidate Donald Trump fiercely competing. The two candidates are engaged in intense debates over key issues such as democracy, the economy, and immigration in key swing states. Meanwhile, concerning events have emerged during the election process, including harassment of election workers and vandalism at polling stations. Key information points. 1. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are competing fiercely in key swing states for electoral victory. 2. The two candidates are engaged in intense debates over key issues such as democracy, the economy, and immigration. 3. Concerning events have occurred during the election process, including harassment of election workers and vandalism at polling stations. 4. Authorities are on high alert for election-related violence and are taking appropriate measures to respond. Summary. The 2024 U.S. presidential election is entering a heated phase, with both major candidates competing fiercely. They are engaged in intense debates on key issues. At the same time, concerning events have emerged during the election process, prompting authorities to remain vigilant and take responsive measures. This election is crucial for the future of the United States and deserves close attention. Briefing. This week's streaming content highlights. 1. Teacup, a Peacock series produced by James Wan, inspired by Robert McCammon's Bram Stoker Award-nominated work, Stinger, featuring horror elements. 2. Territory, a Netflix series telling the story of an Australian outback rancher, considered potentially the next Yellowstone. 3. Don't Move, a Netflix film produced by Sam Raimi, telling a story about a person or bear in the forest. 4. Escape at Dannemora, a Showtime series directed by Ben Stiller, recounting a true prison escape event. 5. The Penguin, a Max series featuring Colin Farrell reprising his role as Oswald Cobblepot. 6. Woman of the Hour, a Netflix film directed by Anna Kendrick, telling a story about a serial killer case. 7. Lioness, a Paramount Plus series produced by Taylor Sheridan, focusing on a secret U.S. Marine Corps female operative program. 8. The Lincoln Lawyer, a Netflix series featuring Manuel Garcia Rulfo as the renowned lawyer. Additionally, the New Zealand team swept the Indian team 3-0 on Indian soil, causing India to drop to second place in the World Test Championship standings, while Australia regained the top spot. This defeat puts additional pressure on India in their quest for the World Test Championship final in the remaining 5 matches. News Brief. 1. Singapore, over 100 live quail chicks were abandoned in a garbage bin, a distressing discovery according to animal protection organization ACRES, but none of the chicks survived. The National Parks Board of Singapore stated it would investigate and take action against any acts of animal abuse or abandonment. 2. India, the New Zealand team completed a historic 3-0 turnaround against India in the 3-match Test series, regarded as one of the greatest series victories in New Zealand cricket history. Indian captain Rohit Sharma admitted this was a low point in his career, but stated the team would rebound in the upcoming tour of Australia. 3. UK, a pro-Palestinian organization stole 2 sculptures representing Israel's first president at the University of Manchester to commemorate the 107th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. The local Jewish Representative Council condemned this act and called for authorities to designate the organization as illegal. Overall, these news items cover various fields, including animal protection, sports events, and political protests, reflecting current societal hot topics. The abandonment of animals in Singapore and the Indian cricket team's defeat are particularly noteworthy, drawing widespread attention and discussion. Briefing. 1. India-China border conflict eases. India's foreign minister stated that India and China have made some progress on border issues, which is a welcome step. Troop disengagement has been completed in Demchok and Depsang plains, signaling a potential easing of relations between the two countries. 2. India suffers crushing defeat. The Indian national cricket team faced a 0-3 defeat against New Zealand, which Indian captain Rohit Sharma labelled as the lowest point of his career. This loss has dropped India to second place in the World Cricket Championship rankings, overtaken by Australia. 3. India plans to implement Uniform Civil Code in Jharkhand. India's Home Minister stated that if the BJP wins the Jharkhand state elections, a uniform civil code will be implemented, but tribal communities will be exempt. 4. Indian government committed to eradicating tuberculosis. Prime Minister Modi stated that the decline in tuberculosis incidence is a result of India's focused and innovative efforts, asserting, "We will continue to strive for a TB-free India through collective spirit." 5. Explosion attack in Kashmir. An explosion occurred in a bustling market in Srinagar, injuring 10 people. The attack took place in a highly secured area. 6. Indian government and Delhi government clash over lawyer appointment authority. The Delhi government has filed a lawsuit against the central government for granting the governor the authority to appoint lawyers, with the Supreme Court set to hear the case on November 4. 7. Indian pharmaceutical company recalls drugs in the U.S. Indian pharmaceutical company Dr. Reddy's Laboratories has recalled over 330,000 bottles of medication used to treat hypercalcemia and hyperparathyroidism due to manufacturing issues. 8. Early voting surge in the U.S. election. In the upcoming U.S. presidential election, millions of voters have already expressed their choices through early voting. Due to insufficient relevant content, no reports can be made on other topics. This briefing synthesizes the content of multiple articles provided, primarily covering the following aspects. 1. Israeli police actions against 21-year-old Arab student Rita Murad. Police visited Murad's home when she was not there, and she later voluntarily returned to the police station to surrender. This has raised concerns about Israel's oppression and discrimination against Arab citizens. 2. Latest updates on MotoGP events. In the Malaysian race, Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia won, narrowing the points gap to 24, with the championship battle against Jorge Martin set to be decided in the final race in Barcelona. 3. The tragedy of a 10-year-old girl named Rasha in Gaza, who died in an Israeli airstrike. Rasha wrote a will before her death, hoping her belongings could be distributed to friends and family. This highlights the brutal killings of civilians, especially children, in Gaza by Israel, calling for international attention. Overall, this briefing addresses issues of discrimination against Arab citizens in Israel, the fierce competition in MotoGP, and the tragic experiences of children in Gaza due to Israeli airstrikes, providing rich content and substantial information while succinctly summarizing the main points.